Welcome, everybody, to the fourth of our four-part series with Dr. Cook. It's exciting to be able to talk about limbic arc technology and to put it in a way that hopefully it makes sense to you. Having Dr. Cook here as the founder and developer of this technology is such an honor. Dr. Cook, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Me too. It's good to
Uh,
see. It's good to see the faces I can see.
yes. We do have translation today. We've got translation, live translation into Hungarian and into Italian. So Blanca and Roland, thank you for what you're doing for us to help communicate. And hopefully this is helpful for you. Um, we are recording this event and we will be posting it live after it's over in Italian as well as Hungarian translations and of course in English, and posting that to our YouTube channel. If you haven't taken time to go to our YouTube channel, you should. There's some wonderful content and you can look through and hear lots of conversations. Dr. Cook, you and I, we've had a lot of conversations in some of these meetings during the past few years and covered some amazing topics.
Yes, we've said about all there is to be said.
Oh, I don't think so.
Let's say it again.
I, well, and I know that we've talked about PET in the past, but today our topic is limbic arc technology used with our animals, our pets that we love so much. And I'm particularly excited about listening to what you have to say. I have seen in my own life how powerful this is with I have a little dog, and it just is amazing how effective this is. It's just almost instant for me. So anyway, so I'll quit talking, Dr. Cook, and I'll give you the go ahead
All
to
right.
instruct us.
I will let's see. I need sharing turned on, Scott.
By the way, I see some wonderful people on our call today. Anyway, thank you for joining us. I see many of our leaders. I see our master affiliate Ron Spence here. Welcome, everybody. We're grateful that you're taking your time to be with us today. For us, it's this morning. I know it, for our friends overseas, it's evening time, and we appreciate you taking time to do that. I see that you're now in control of the screen, Dr. Cook. I can see
Yeah,
your screen. Yeah, I
I
can see
got
your
to
first
share.
slide.
Good. Well, let's get going, at least on this part of our conversation. Um,
Before we do that, Dr. Cook, let me just mention we will be taking live questions. If you
yeah,
would like to send in a question, please put it in the chat. We'll be able to translate it and we'll deal with a few questions live on this call today. Um, Clearly, if put in your question early, I'm not sure we'll be able to get to all of them. But now I'll be quiet, Dr. Cook, and let you present. Thank you.
well, and George, as you know, interrupt anywhere along the way. This is a free wheel presentation. So,
Uh,
but let's begin with our standard disclaimer, and that is that Limbic Arc software does not diagnose, treat, or cure or prevent any disease, illness, or injury or other medical condition. It's not a medical device. It's designed to improve the quality of life. And here are the 5 areas of quality of life. So, can Limbic Arc help me with my spirituality? Yes, it can. Can it help me with my physical health or my mental health or my financial or social health? Yes, it can help you with all of those areas. And it also can help your pets. Now, I don't know that it would help your pet with its financial uh, quality of life, but maybe it would, if you maybe your dog would get smarter and he'd make more money for you. But one of the questions we get is, why do pets respond well to limbic arc technology? The short answer to that is because pets are organic, sentient beings just like we are, and they have fields and they are actors in the 0 point field. So the principles that guide how limbic arc works apply not only to humans, but also pets. And frankly, it applies to non-humans in ways we'll talk about in a minute.
Mhm.
Another question is, do pets respond better than humans? No, they really don't. Uh, if you turn an InfoBoost on for you, you will get the benefit as fast as your bird or your dog or your cat will. One of the differences, however, between us and our pets is we don't know if limbic arc is the direct cause or the indirect cause. So quite often we'll turn the InfoBoost on, something good happens in our life, and we say, did limbic arc improve my quality of life, or would it have happened anyway? And that is a barrier to us as humans. It's our tendency to second guess ourselves. The advantage pets have is they don't do that. So here he's thinking, why do humans overthink everything? When you turn your InfoBoost on for your pet, there's no placebo effect. It either is effective or it's not effective. And usually the benefit is direct enough that we can recognize it. And so that's the reason why George would say, I'm amazed at how effective this is with my pet. It's because he can see the direct benefit fairly quickly. And I don't know if you've had that same experience, but I have. So, we turn on our InfoBoost. She says to her puppy, you're doing so much better since I activated your InfoBoost. And he's returning the love saying, you're my best friend. We're thinking that.
I've actually set up, well, as my kids come to my home, they'll bring their pets, and I have set up Calm Info Boosts for all
their
of those
pets.
pets as well, and it makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy, but it's a good crazy.
Yeah.
So here, I'm just going to run through the steps of setting up a pet info boost. First of all, you click on the menu button if you're doing this on your phone, and then you go to My Pets. And before you can set up a pet info boost, you have to load the pet into the program. I don't have a dog, but I have some grand dogs, and here are 3 of them. And Jeb is a dog who recently passed away. He was an old guy. He'd been in the family for a long time. And I'm going to tell you a story about him, but because he's no longer here, then I want to take him out of my list of pets. And the way I do that is I click on that arrow, and then I go into Edit, and you can see the archive button there in the top right where the arrow's pointing.
Right.
I click on archive and then click on save, and we're back to the edit screen, and you can see that he has been archived. Now, it didn't eliminate him from my database, but he'll no longer appear when I come into my pet screen. So now we've got Ray and Spanner still showing there. They're 2 of my grand dogs. But I want to add a new pet. So I put the plus button, click on the plus button, and I'm going to enter my cat. And the cat happens to be pretty smart. And so I give him the selfie stick, or her, the selfie stick, and she takes a photo, and I click on the change image button after I've saved that photo to my phone. And you can do this with non-humans. So let's say that I wanted to do an info boost for my house. Well, at this point, I could take a picture of my house. Or let's say that I had a plant or a garden area that needed some help, and you think, well, maybe I'll try an info boost on the garden area. You can take a picture of the garden area at this point. So you can use PET, not just on pets, but you can use it on non-human elements. And again, Well, let me explain a little bit why it works. Let's say that I want to do an info boost on my immediate environment, like my house. So I go out and I take a picture of my house, and I may want to create a more peaceful feeling in my house. Maybe that's my goal. So I create the info boost, and you'll see how to do that in just a second. Well, what happens when I activate that info boost? That info boost is going to have a primary impact on me as the primary actor, but it will also have an impact on the field of my house. My house is a non-actor. The difference between that is an actor has the ability to make choices. A non-actor does not. So my house doesn't make conscious choices, but I do. And the fact that we both have fields means that we are opposed, we are constrained, we are balanced as participants in the 0 point field. So again, it happens the same with everything and everybody, but that's why you can do it for a non-human. It may be that you are being affected more directly by this info boost than, say, your house is, but because of your relationship, your field relationship with your house, it actually will create a shift in the field of your house. So that's why you can use this with non-humans. Now, the other question is, what about just putting humans in? Can I just, take a picture of my son or my grandson and turn on an info boost for him? The answer is you shouldn't do this. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have any effect, because it will have an effect. But the reason you shouldn't do it, first of all, it's not designed to be used with humans. It's not designed to be used because we have optimized the library for pets, not for humans. And so if you're using it in this way, you're actually shortchanging the human because you're not giving them full advantage of limbic arc. And the other reason is we just didn't build it that way. We didn't intend it to be used that way. So my advice to you is don't use it on humans. Okay, so moving along. So I put in the information. There's my cat's name, Smarty Cat. And she's a cat born in 23. I just made her up, by the way. I really don't have a cat. But, and there's her selfie picture. So I put that in. And when I hit the save button, it brings me to this screen where I can see her and I can see her information. And now I want to create a new pet info boost for Smarty Cat. So I click on New Info Boost, and it brings me to the presets. You can see all the presets here. And I can scroll down and I can take any of those presets and activate them just like I do with my own info boosts. But I want to show you how to do a custom. So what I do then is I will click on the preset dropdown and I will select custom. And then I say, okay, I want to do a new custom info boost. And I'm going to call this info boost Catch More Mice. See, I want Smarty to do her job better as the guardian of the house. And we have some mice that she's just not quite getting to. So I'm going to do an info boost to help her get more mice. So Catch More Mice, I name it. I can put in a description if I need to, but I think the name on this one is self-explanatory. Then it brings me to this screen, which gives me just a little bit of information about how custom info boosts work. And I click on close. It brings me here. So I'm going to start with voice information. And this is the same as it is when you create a voice, a Spark or an info boost, custom info boost for yourself. We're taking the voice energy and we're using that to create a real-time, unique scan of the library. And in this case, it would be a scan that would be for the benefit of Smarty Cat. So I click on Start the Voice Input, but Remember, these are the rules of how you speak. First of all, you don't sing, so I can't make up a song and sing it into the microphone. And you don't want to write things down, say, oh, I'm going to write down what I'm going to say, and then you read it. Don't do that. When you talk, be sure to stay on focus. So, I'm talking about Smarty Cat catching more mice. I want to be talking about that. And you can speak in any language. So language is not an issue. We're not listening to the words. In other words, the software does not care what you say. The software listens to the energy in your voice. And it's that energy that then becomes the modulating factor in the scan of the database. As you're speaking, you'll see this little meter that goes up and down as your voice goes up and down. And after that happens, then the software will take the photograph that you put in, and it will scan the data of the photograph and mix it with the voice energy, append that to our scanning algorithm, and that's how we get the unique scan on the custom pet info boost. So the photograph is important. Then when I'm done with that, it'll say, do you want to continue? And I do. And it does its scan thing, and it happened so fast I couldn't capture the screen, but this is the next screen that it brings you to. And that is, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is where you have the opportunity to upload a current photograph, or you can use the pet profile. Now, in this case, I'm using the pet profile photo, which means that's the one that shows up for Smarty Cat all the time. And the reason I'm using that is because I just took it a few minutes ago. If I had that profile there for a long time, and let's say that Smarty Cat hurt her paw, and I wanted an info boost to help her with healing the paw, I probably would take a current picture. I would take another picture of Smarty Cat today so that I get that image in. It'll make the scan results then more timely. But you have the option here. You can either use the profile picture or upload a current one. And once you've done that, then it runs through the scan I was talking about that happened so fast I couldn't capture the screen. But then it brings you to this screen where, okay, it's ready to go. I've got catch more mice, and I can activate it, but I don't want to activate it yet. I want to look at what the boost ingredients are. As you know, or may not know, the software is designed to automatically select the top 10 ingredients. And so there they are, they're pre-selected. But I like to go down to 90% as opposed to whatever the top 10 end on. And in this case, it ended on 94. So I'm going to scroll down. And when I get down to 90%, you see I've selected everything down to 90%. Well, when I got down there, let me back up because there's one thing I noticed I need to tell you about. You see that green arrow pointing to 3C?
3C, the 94% one, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, that's a homeopathic potency.
Okay.
And because it's included in the top area, I know that putting that information in with everything else will create a homeopathic informational effect. Again, I'm not making a remedy here. I'm not making a homeopathic remedy, but the information correlate is what I'm considering. And I know that I'm going to have a 3C on everything here. So when I scroll down and I get down to 90%, lo and behold, at 89%, there's another homeopathic potency, 12C. And down at 88%, there's another one, 12X.
12X, right.
And when I do this, I usually select 2 or 3 potencies so that I create what's called a homochord. And again, it's the informational equivalent of a homochord. So I selected 12C and I selected 12X and scrolled back up to the top and closed that field by clicking on that button. And then I went down to my schedule the info boost. The default is 14 days. So if I just turn this info boost on without changing the schedule, it would have run for 14 days. But in this case, I want it to run for 8 days. And you say, well, wait a minute, why did you want to run it for 8 days? It's because I wanted to show you how you could change the number of days. Remember,
Because you can.
yeah, Smarty Cat is a made-up cat. So I'm just kind of, showing
Okay.
you the features here. Okay, so after I've selected that, I close it, and then I'm ready to activate it. So I click on the Activate button, and it's activated. That blue bar you can see right there on the left where the arrow is pointing, that tells me that this info boost is active. Now, what's going to happen as soon as I activate that? That's what's going to happen. So all your mice are going to get scared and go find some other place to live. That may or may not be true. This is a smarty cat, not a mouse thing. Now, I've got the info boost now active, and I frankly am expecting that Smarty Cat's going to be a better mouser. Is it appropriate for me to add a cert info boost to this pet info boost? Well, a pet info boost is directed to the pet. It's not directed to me. But a cert is directed to me. It's not directed to the pet. We haven't designed cert to be able to redirect it to anywhere but you. So why would I consider a cert info boost on this? Because I am undoubtedly emotionally attached to Smarty Cat.
Yeah.
And so if I create a cert info boost, knowing that it's going to have a greater impact on me than on Smarty Cat, I know that indirectly it's going to impact Smarty Cat. And, one of the reasons we love our pets so much is because of this emotional connection that we have with them. And so it's totally appropriate for me to add a cert info boost to my Smarty Cat Catch More Mice.
Yeah. I would say that the emotional connection between owners and their pets is amazing. And
Yeah, it really is.
That's a great tip.
I have to laugh when I think about that because my father and his siblings grew up on a ranch, so they were farmers and ranchers, and they owned dogs, but they only owned dogs because they were work animals on the farm and the ranch. Well, I had an uncle who in my aunt, who was my father's sister. Boy, I'm really getting into the weeds on this, aren't I, George? Anyway, my aunt and her husband, so my uncle and aunt, they bought this dog, and they bought a Mexican Chihuahua, which is a little bald. From a rancher's point of view, it's a little useless animal.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it ought to be on a farm.
No. And so all of the brothers and the men in the family who were ranchers looked at this couple who had bought this Chihuahua, and they just laughed. They said, "Oh my gosh, this is, and my uncle, who had been a rancher, was kind of resistive early on. It was the girls in his family that bought this Chihuahua. Well, over about a month or two, he totally fell in love with this dog, and the dog actually became more his dog than anybody else's in the family. And so yes, we develop huge emotional bonds with our animals, and they definitely become part of our lives. So that is the Pet Info Boost. Now, I want to wrap this up by telling you that we are going to start a pet research project, and we would like you to participate if you so choose. The research project will involve you, if you have a pet, doing a pet info boost and logging any changes that you see in your pet. What we're trying to do is to document the effect or the non-effect. I mean, if you turn on an info boost and see no difference, we need you to log that too. But if you want to participate, and it'll be about a 2-week research, so you're committing to 2 weeks of paying attention and doing some logging. But if you want to participate, please send an email to pet at limbicarc.com and say, I'd like to participate. And then we will email back to you the documentation that you need to participate. And when you're through with that, you'll then send that back to us and we'll compile all that information. And then we'll let you know how this research project has turned out. pet@limbicarc.com is only for this research project. So don't send your tech support questions there because that's the wrong place to send it.
Right. If you have questions about running an InfoBoost or the operational questions, please go to success@limbicarc.com. But Dr. Cook, this looks exciting to do a study on PET. I'm optimistic and hope lots of people will join in.
Well, and George, I should mention that PET is really a good way to introduce Limbic Arc to someone because the results are usually direct and pretty dramatic.
Right.
So I got to tell you the story of Jeb, and then I'll stop. We'll be open for questions here.
Yeah, you archived Jeb earlier on, and I happened to notice in your presentation as you were going through some of the info boosts you ran on Jeb. So I'm interested in the story.
Well, Jeb was old. I think I had in there he was born in 2014. I think he was born probably in 28 or something like that. He was about 14 years old, so he was an old dog. But he got cancer, and it grew pretty quickly, and he was not in a good place. He was old and tired, and I've had cancer before, and so when I would look at Jeb, I'd know it was like, Jeb, I know how you're feeling. This is not fun. But he was just lethargic and out of energy. So I created an info boost for him for more energy. And my daughter, who owns Jeb, told me the next day, she said, "Oh, Jeb's got more energy. He's jumping up on the couch now and he's wagging his tail." And so the info boost had an immediate effect on him, but he was still, honestly, he was just at death's door. And about a week after that, we went on a walk, and Jeb was with us. And Jeb was, I mean, he was ready to go. I could tell just because I've been there before, and I just would look at this guy and I knew what he was feeling. And so then I went home and I turned off the other info boost and I turned on a goodbye Jeb info boost, basically just saying, Jeb, it's okay to die. And it was that info boost. And within 2 days, my daughter, who had been very resistive to taking him to the vet to put him to sleep, reconciled herself to Jeb is, he's leaving us. And he's going to be better off if we can take him out of this pain. And, he's just dying a slow death. So we're not helping him. So they took him 2 days later, they took him to the vet and he's gone. So PET info boosts work, and they work dramatically enough that for somebody who might be skeptical about themselves, well, did this really come from Limbic Arc or was it something else? If you turn on an info boost for your pet and you see an improvement, you go, I'll be darned, this stuff really works. Maybe it'll work for me because it worked for my pet. So PET is a great way to introduce Limbic Arc to someone that you're introducing Limbic Arc to.
Fantastic. Wow. Wonderful stories. And I'm looking forward to the study. I'm hoping that we see lots of I've heard so many stories about people and their success using the PET product. I'm excited about it. I use it, and I hope that others can find the same value and benefit. Dr. Cook, we have got a lot of questions. Before we get into our questions, well, I guess maybe this is the first question. Melanie was curious when we were talking about non-human and non-pet applications. Her question was, can you use this for a car?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about Limbic Arc is because we're affecting ourselves and the world around us at a quantum level, you kind of don't know how that all works. I can't tell you how it all works, but everything has a field, including your car. And so if let's say that I've got a car that's just not up to snuff and I don't have enough money to get it fixed, so I do a non-human info boost on my car, what's going to happen? Well, that is going to affect me. It'll affect the field of my car, and it may open up me and the car to possibilities that didn't exist before. So perhaps the field on the car will change, perhaps my field will change. I don't know that it would correct a mechanical flaw, but it might. But it may be that all of a sudden a friend comes over and says, "Hey, I understand you're having a problem with your car. I'm kind of a mechanic. Let me see what I can do." And they get under the hood and it's fixed. And you go, "Phew, I'll be darned, it worked." But that's an indirect benefit, you see. It's not like your car got better spontaneously. It's just it opened you up to possibilities. Or you may realize, hey, I don't need a car. I'm just going to trade him in and buy a pair of roller skates. So, yeah, I don't know what the indirect outcome would be, but I would say if you want to experiment with Limbic Arc anyway, go ahead and experiment with it. And
Well, the interesting thing about using PET on animals is both humans as well as animals are actors, right?
right,
And so
right.
that's something to consider. Um, Dr. Cook, for questions number one, Christina asks, this important question. In the PET InfoBoost ingredients, I find elements that are not good for all of them. An example, some foods in the material may not be good for a cat, but might be good for a dog. Um, I know that there are some ingredients that have been modified in the library overall, but could you talk to that just a little bit?
Yeah, when we put an item in the library, we do a search to see is this item okay for pets? And depending on what comes back, so let's say that it's okay for dogs, but it's not good for cats. Then in the way we put this in, we have a way to exclude it from cats, but not from dogs. So if I'm doing a info boost for Smarty Cat, that item will not show up. If I'm doing it for my dog, it will show up. Now, sometimes we miss those. So if you ever find something that you say, "Oh, wait a minute, this shouldn't be in here for a dog," well, then send that comment over to info@limbicarc.com to help us clean up the library because we can go in and change that. We don't want to be including things that we shouldn't include.
Yeah.
Now, let me hasten to say, George, that remember, this is information we're dealing with. This is not, it's not real stuff, it's virtual stuff. So, for example, grapes are not good for dogs. Well, if I inadvertently got grape in an info boost for my dog, it's not going to kill him because it's the information of grape he's getting, not real grapes. I'm not feeding him grapes. So you don't have to panic or worry about, well, what if he gets the wrong information? But if you see something like that, please let us know because we want the library to be as accurate as we can make it.
Well, and I think that always use your innate intelligence. If you look at the ingredients and you feel like there's something that you don't want to be in there, then turn it off.
Turn it off. Yeah.
And it doesn't just go for pets, it goes for humans. I know that sometimes people have concerns about how, anyway, there are a lot of reasons why you may not want something in your info boost, and just use your intelligence and make it more effective based on your knowledge. So,
Yep.
Caitlin asks if you have experiences with horses, Dr. Cook. Do you have a cowboy hat?
Well, it's interesting. I have a grand horse,
Okay.
and his name is Bo. I have not done an info boost for him, but in the last couple of days, I thought I had to do an info boost for Bo. So I'll have some experience shortly because I'm going to follow through on that. But today, no, I don't.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Adrian asks, is it helpful to try to get the cat meowing or the dog barking as part of the Spark scan, as part of the voice recording? And
Yeah, that's a great question. You could, if you've trained your cat to meow on command, but I wouldn't
If
worry
you can do that, you should probably be a pet trainer. That's pretty awesome.
you'd be a cat whisperer, wouldn't you? Um, I wouldn't worry about that. What you're doing is you're acting as a surrogate for your pet. So when you speak, you're speaking on behalf of your pet, and that will carry the energy that we need to create the correct scan of the data. So you don't need to worry about it. But if you want to experiment with it, I mean, if you can make your dog bark, that'd be awesome.
I have in my mind visions of my grandson pulling on my dog's tail.
Well, and then the bark might actually be communicating the wrong thing.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Well, there's a lot. Next question has to do with pet's birthday. You mentioned that you weren't quite sure the age of a pet. If you don't know the age or the birthday, what's your best recommendation?
it's really an estimated age that you put in there or an approximate age. It's just a way to further isolate the identification of the pet.
Okay.
So,
Is it a big deal? I mean, if you miss that by a little or a lot, I
no,
mean,
it's not a big deal, frankly.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, Next question. What if I have a gecko lizard or something that's or not on the list for pets? I know that there's the drop down and you can select the animal.
In the drop down, we actually found the most common pets in the world, and that's what we put in that list. Um, if I had a lizard and it wasn't in there, I would just take something that's close. So maybe another reptile. Um, you want to get close. What we're doing with that information is we're creating in English or in language, we're essentially creating adjectives that we're going to attach to the name to help us identify this name is specific to Smarty the cat. And so if I can get her age, that's a modifier that helps me more specifically identify Smarty the cat. And if I can get her species type, that helps. Probably the most significant thing I do is the photograph that I include, because there's no question it's a photograph of Smarty the cat or it's a photograph of my gecko. So, in that case, I would probably take, maybe a snake, take a picture of the gecko, and away you go.
Okay. Let's see. How many pets can you add into your account for a Pet Info Boost?
5, maybe?
I
Scott,
believe it's 5.
is it 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott's nodding his head. So 5.
Yeah. And keep in mind you can archive pets.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've found is if there's a pet that's coming, one of my grand dogs comes to the house, I will I may run a column info boost, and then when he's done, I may archive that dog for a little while till he comes back next time. So
Yeah. And when you archive, it opens that space up so you can put in another pet. So,
okay. I think that this has been pretty enlightening. I think that this kind of opens up new possibilities for a lot of our affiliates. Here's a question from Chris. What is the difference between the preset info boost and a custom info boost? And I'm assuming this is with regards to pets specifically.
right. Well, and it's the same on the pet and the human side. The preset info boosts are lists of items that in the real world have an effect that is indicated by the name of the preset info boost. So we have one in there for calm. And the items that are listed there, if you gave a pet those items physically, they would have each item would have a calming effect. And so it's just kind of a pre-selected list. If you do a custom, then you just get the whole library with the prioritization regardless of the known effect. And I don't know if that, I think that explains it, George. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, the more you understand the technology, there are a lot of similarities between the regular InfoBoost and the PET InfoBoost, and oftentimes the same principles apply.
Mhm.
And maybe I could mention something on my own, Dr. Cook. If I were an InfoBoost, if I had Limbic Arc and was using it for myself and my friends and my family and getting value to that, but I don't have a pet, I would probably want to consider adding pet to my account for this reason. Number one, if I have a subscription to pet, everybody in my friends and family will also be able to have a subscription to a pet. If I don't have a subscription to pet on my main account, then it's not available to any of my friends and family. And so if you're using friends and family to help other people understand more and give them good experiences, I would strongly recommend you think about including pet to your Limbic Arc account.
Yeah, good observation, George. I agree 100%.
There's a question from Janos. I love the Pet InfoBoost program, and I'm wondering why there are only 2 active Pet InfoBoosts allowed at a time per pet.
Because yeah, obviously that was an arbitrary decision on our part. I don't know that you need more than 2 generally.
Dr. Cook, I know we've talked about overload and some other things in the past. I mean, could it be we don't want to overstimulate things? I'm not sure that there's
Well, yes, I don't know. I just as you may know from past conversations, I am fairly conservative on how I use Limbic Arc, meaning I don't go in and turn on 150 ingredients generally. That would be the exception for me. Now, that doesn't mean that that's the way everybody should do it. I just happen to be pretty sensitive to this stuff. So it doesn't take a lot of items for me to feel an effect. And frankly, if I get too many items, I feel like I'm being overloaded. But if you are a person who says, no, I like lots of stuff and I really respond better with lots, then that's the way you should do it for you. So as we designed this, based on my bias of being conservative, I just felt like you really don't need to turn on more than 2 info boosts at a time for a pet because pets respond so quickly. And, I don't think you need to overload them. Unless they're a Doberman, then you really do.
yeah, some dogs certainly are smarter than others. It certainly appears that way. A question from Claudia and Dr. Cook. There are people probably confused about using pet for non-actors. And so Claudia says, so I can use pet even for a house, a plant, or a car. I'm not sure if I correctly understand this. So maybe we could take this from 30,000 feet and just kind of explain that concept one
Okay.
more time.
Everything has what's called a field. A field is a sphere of influence. Now, when I say everything has a field, that I mean everything. It's not just organic living things. The country of Italy has a field. It has a sphere of influence. Hungary has a sphere of influence. Every country does. Every language, mathematics. So everything that is material or non-material will have a field. And all of these fields live in a place called the 0 point field. Now, the reason that the 0 point field is named what it is, 0 point field, one of the reasons, is because it's a self-balancing ecosystem, which means that it naturally moves to a balanced position. What that means is every field is opposed in some way by other fields. So my field, as an example, is contained or constrained or defined by the other things in the 0 point field that oppose me. Now, opposition is not a bad thing in this sense, it's a good thing. Well, that position that I hold in the 0 point field will impact the entire 0 point field then, because the entire field will move to accommodate my position. If I can change my field, then the entire 0 point field will adjust to accommodate my new position. And that's really the baseline of how limbic arc works. So let's take your car as an example. Your car has a field. It has a sphere of influence. And if you can affect through an info boost any change in that field, then the 0 point field will adjust to accommodate that change. And you say, well, how does a car change its field? And the answer is a car does not change its field. You change the car's field. Let's take a language as an example. The language of English has a sphere of influence, but that sphere of influence is always changing, and it primarily changes with the invention of new words. And so as new words are put into a language, its sphere of influence changes. And when that happens, then the entire 0 point field will change to accommodate that new field position. So that's the way it works with your car, with your house, with any non-actor. You affect the change, but you can affect the change. You can actually change the field of your car. So that's how it works. And it is kind of spacey, but frankly, it's pretty sound science, actually.
Well, look, the intent of the Pet Info Boost is for our pets. That's how it was designed and so it
Yeah.
was developed. So I strongly encourage you to use that for your animals. Aniko asks a question, Dr. Cook. Should I be doing continuous pet info boosts or run one only when there are specific issues?
You could do both. You could do, it's kind of like what you do for yourself. I mean, what I do for me is I have kind of a constitutional info boost that I run pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
And then if something comes up, then I'll create another info boost specific to whatever that is. I would do the same thing for my pet. So if I had a pet, I'd run a Smarty the Cat awesomeness info boost. And then if I, wanted her to stop biting the furniture, I would do the Don't Bite the Furniture info boost.
This isn't a question so much as it is a comment from Adrian. I'm not sure if I said her name right. So when I use the pet program, it still affects me because it changed my field. And so she asks, is that the reason or not?
Well, that's definitely part of the reason.
Yeah.
And another example would be, let's say that I have a son that's 8 years old and his behavior is off the wall. I can do a friends and family info boost for him, and it will change his field and mine. Or I can do an info boost for me and not for him. And the info boost would be, hey, my son is driving me crazy and I need some help. Well, it'll change my field, but because of my connection to my son, I'll notice a shift on him.
Right.
clinically, what we've observed over the years is that, and maybe I'm getting a little bit off subject, but uh, it's about age 16 when your ego becomes strong enough that you are not directly affected by your parents. Below the age of 16, if you want to change a child, you focus on the parent. But at about age 16, then you start focusing on the younger person. Um, so, so it doesn't matter what info boost I implement. It is going to have an effect on me because I live in the 0 point field.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and I've often heard you say, if you want to change the world, you change yourself.
Well, and that's because that is literally true. In fact, that's the only way you can create a lasting change in the world, frankly. I mean, I guess I could force somebody to do something, but the greater way to do it is to change myself so that my field changes their field and they may see an option that they hadn't seen and then they will choose a better path. But yeah, that's the way you do it.
Well, and I like that concept, Dr. Cook. It's refreshing to me because the one of the hardest things is to try to force your will on someone else or something else. I've spent time when I've ridden horses quite a bit. Some horses just don't want to cross the stream. They just don't like the water when they're all saddled up and going. And so, and I can try and enforce my will on that horse and if ultimately get through. But the reality is that that horse, if it chooses to cross the stream, it just takes away all of the things. I mean, I look at that from my perspective. If I want to make a change, I need to either figure it. I can try to do it because I can control myself. So
Yeah.
anyway, that was maybe a bad example, but
Oh, well, horses are actors,
yeah,
so they have choice.
right.
And yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a cool book called Power versus Force.
Yeah,
I don't know how old it is, but it is an interesting book if you ever wanted to find it and read it. And it talks about the difference between power and force.
right.
And power creates lasting changes, force does not.
Yeah.
And it's a fascinating read. So what we're talking about is power. We're not talking about force.
Well, the old song, "I Want You to Want Me," now I've got music in my head, Dr. Cook. But
Oh no.
again, we often want people to want to choose a different thing. And that's usually an exercise in frustration that I have found. If I found that I focus on myself instead of trying to focus on trying to change someone else, it's more fulfilling to me.
Well, and I think that it's appropriate to create an info boost with the desire for someone else to change.
Mhm.
So let's say you have a child, young or old, or somebody you love who's making destructive choices. And so you can create an info boost and you would talk like this, like, my friend is, or my son or my daughter is making choice. I'm concerned about their choices. They seem to be on a path that's just not going to lead to their happiness. So I'd like an info boost to help with that. Well, that info boost is going to actually impact you, and the outcome can be that my field change will impact them, or my field change may impact me in such a way that my behavior will change, which will then give them the space to move and change. So sometimes we look at other people and we think they're the problem. And in fact, it's us that's the problem.
Yeah,
And so an info boost can help us get out of the way.
right.
So,
Well, one last question, Dr. Cook. And I know that we've talked about this, and I know we've talked about it in the past, but maybe we could just go over it one more time. Preset info boost versus custom info boost. What's the difference? This is from Anna. What's the main difference? What's the difference between the presets and the custom?
the only difference is that a preset is a list of items that in the real world have a common effect that's known. And the whole library is not segregated in that way. So if I do a custom info boost, it just sorts the library. I can take the items that showed up at the top, and they may or may not be in my preset list. If you want to, you can also, let's say that I want a calm info boost for my cat. So I go in and I do a pet info boost, and I do a custom info boost. Well, you know where you can see that all ingredients button, you can click and go down to, I think you can go to or info boosts. And then you could go down to Calm and you could see how it got sorted. And you might want to include some of the top things out of the Calm info boost. So you just have the flexibility with what you do. But the main difference is we have pre-sorted the library in a way that will guide you to your desired outcome without a lot of work. And that's what a preset is.
Right. Right. Awesome. Okay. Well, as we wrap things up, guys, we've had amazing topics. This is number 4, Dr. Cook. It seems like this month has gone so fast.
It has.
And please refer back to our earlier 3 conversations in the presentations. And our intent is to help you get a basic understanding of Limbic Arc and how to effectively use it. There's been a lot here, and I'm sure that going back through and re-listening to those can be helpful, or pass them along, share them with some friends. So,
well, and remember that PET is really, sometimes that's the least, it's the path of least resistance when you're sharing it with someone else. You know, you might have a friend or just somebody you run into, and you get talking about their dog they've got with them, and then they say, oh yeah, my dog's doing this and I wish you wouldn't. Well, hey, I've got something that might help. You then introduce them through PET. Quite often that's the easy path. So, and remember, pet@limbicarc.com. If you want to participate in the research project, please send us an email and say, count me in, and we will send you what you need.
Fantastic. Dr. Cook, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining on. Look for some more information when the recordings are posted live. So everybody be well, and be well with your pets. So,
yes, thanks, everybody. We love you all. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.